Welcome to Never End the Story, a podcast where we rewatch the cherished childhood movies of our guests, along with Tepper, an adult who's never seen any of these movies before. I'm your host, Ivan. This episode, we are joined by Chris, Shana, and of course Tepper. We will be watching Jumanji, directed by John Johnston, released in 1995, based on the 1981 children's book by Chris von Allsburg, who worked as a story writer for the film. Shana brought us this movie this week. Why?
Well, so as a kid, I was really into animals, and this movie has a lot of that. But, so it is just a fun kids movie, and I had a good time watching it. And it did touch on one of my childhood fears, which I won't say now for spoilers, but I'll mention it afterwards.
All right. Does anyone else have a personal connection to this film? Chris?
This was a VHS that we had in the cupboard, and we definitely watched it a lot. It wasn't as big for me, I think, as it was for Shana, but it is. It's one of those ones that anytime it's been on TV or something like that, when I'm an adult, I see it, I go like, wow, that's really good.
Yeah, I also owned it on VHS as a kid, or maybe it was a VHS recorded off a TV. Definitely watched it half dozen times maybe, but I remember it being real good. I'm not that invested in it though.
There are really vivid scenes that I remember very clearly to this day.
I don't really. Well, I mean, I haven't watched it, obviously. I've watched the sequel, though.
Listeners will soon find out that a running joke here is that Tepper has seen the sequels to many classic films.
But not the originals. Yeah, so I've seen the sequel. There's the meme, what year is it? And I know Robin Williams is in it, and that's basically all I know about it. Well, and the board game stuff and a few minor details. But everything about the plot and kind of what happens, I know absolutely nothing.
All right. We are now showing Tepper the movie poster. So obviously you have a little bit of information from the past, but based on this anyways, what do you think this movie's about?
Well, we can see the board game box. There's obviously Robin Williams. And animals. So, having watched the sequel to the movie, and actually I believe when we were watching the sequel, you guys mentioned some stuff. Robin Williams gets taken into the board game when he's 10 and trapped there, and then I'm assuming some other people later on get trapped in the board game and meet up with him, and other stuff happens, and I'm assuming they manage to escape. And then at the end, they put the board game into, I think it was a river or the ocean, or it flows into the ocean and then washes up at a beach.
Wow!
Into the direct sequel that was filmed
direct sequel
20 years later.
Those are some really firm predictions this time, Tepper. For Neverending Story, you were like, I think there's a girl in it.
Well, I also knew absolutely nothing about Neverending Story. So, this one I'm working off sequel knowledge here.
Right.
Clearly we'll have this as an ongoing thing throughout the series. Who do you think's the main character in this movie, according to this poster?
Oh, man, how could I ever guess? Rhino on the right, maybe? But I don't know. That elephant in the back looks kind of important. You know what? I'm going to go with the guy at the top of the poster on this one. He looks kind of important. Just a little bit.
I gotta say, that's a very Robin Williams face.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes,
He's in adult movies, and in the posters he's very serious looking, but this is a very Robin Williams silly face.
Yes.
Yeah, Robin Williams comedy.
It definitely looks bobbleheady as well.
Yes. Well, that's the way they've edited it, so that the side of his chin, the side of his jaw rather, is under the A but over the M, so he's poking his head through the letters. It's very hard to look at.
All right.
Yeah.
See you after the film.
What year is it?
It was brand new.
No. What year is it?
And we're back. What did everyone think?
That was really good, actually. I really liked it for a whole multitude of reasons. But before we get into that, what does everybody else think?
Loved it. It was good when I first watched it, and it's good now.
How long do you think it's been since you saw it?
Oh, wow. Years. Yeah, years.
Yeah, my last viewing definitely would have been on VHS.
Yeah, it was definitely VHS. The VHS was attached to the TV, like part of it.
Ooh.
Oh yeah, we had one of those.
And Chris?
I mean, it's a treat, right? Like, there's so many things that I forgot about, and so many things that I remembered exactly that were even better in the rewatch.
Yeah, I agree.
Tepper nailing the predictions this time too.
Well, I mean, to be fair, I did have like a lot of knowledge from the sequel, so
You did also think that it was going to take place inside Jumanji.
yes.
Oh,
and,
yeah.
and actually, I was just thinking when we got into the movie, I remembered that wasn't the case, and I always remember that isn't the case for a weird reason. Because there was a sci-fi version of Jumanji released, I don't know how long after the first
Zarathustra.
one. Yes, and I always remember because when it was on TV and for commercials and stuff, my mom mentioned that I should just watch Jumanji instead, but I never got around to actually watching the movie. But that was one of the reasons why I could always make that weird connection. But yeah, as soon as we got into the movie, I went, oh right, it doesn't take place actually inside the board game.
Yeah, the poster actually does a really good job of conveying that, because you see the board game, but you see Jumanji bursting out into
Yes.
this, into like a suburb.
Yeah, like that poster is actually really good.
Yeah, for how little there kind of is going on, there's a lot going on.
Precisely.
And I guess, so we discussed that Robin Williams in the poster looks very comedic, like it's a comedy. This movie had comedic elements, but I wouldn't call it a comedy.
More like a horror movie?
Yeah, it's
Like-
action adventure horror for
Like-
children.
Yeah, I gotta say, like, this movie is pretty horrifying. Like, there's a lot of horror elements in here. There's definitely a couple of moments where I was like, they put that in, like, a kid's movie? So one thing that definitely struck me throughout the movie, especially having watched the sequel, is there's a real sense of danger in this one. Like, a lot of those monsters, I'm like and creatures and stuff, it's like, no, like, that's... I could see anybody, like, I could see a lot, like, if this was, like, rated M, it would be a bloodbath.
Oh, yeah.
Like, that plant monster... It just grabbed a car and crushed it and dragged it into the jungle.
I love that scene.
Into the forest. It's like... it just narrowly missed grabbing the ant's foot. Like, the implication of danger... like, if you get what I'm saying, is like, Jesus, that would have dragged her off in like a second and like devoured her and stripped her flesh from her bones.
It's
Yeah.
very fatal seeming.
Yes. Yeah, exactly. Like, that's a good word for it.
Did you feel like the sequel was less perilous?
Yeah. Like the like there was dangerous elements, but there was never as much a sense of danger in the sequel, I found, because it felt like the protagonists in the sequel were more equipped to deal with the danger that they were put in front of, whereas like in this movie it's just a bunch of like random scrubs who are all of a sudden dealing with very, very dangerous situations.
Random
Yeah.
scrubs and Robin Williams.
Yeah. But even so, like, Robin Williams is still just a guy, like a survival guy, but still just a guy, if you know what I mean.
Yeah,
Yeah.
they were very, like, they are game avatars in the sequel, and they have multiple lives, which very much decreases the sense of danger.
Yeah. So like the sense of danger in this movie and like the monsters they face is like, yeah, like that's pretty dangerous. So I was like I know I'm comparing the sequel to the original and stuff, but like I would say they're two very different movies, and they shouldn't be compared too directly, other than the differences within a franchise. Because I find they're both good in their own right. But this movie, like, yeah, sense of danger was awesome. I don't know, what did you guys think? I'll
Well, like, I
Pass over
mean,
you.
halfway into the movie, we get a line from the paramedics that the mosquitoes have taken out, like, 50 people.
Yeah. And later when Aunt Nora's in the car, I think they say like 90. People having seizures or like having a fever that puts them out. Yeah, it's like it destroys the Jumanji board game destroys this town's economy and then destroys this town.
Yeah, but like actually though, I know we were joking about it being a cursed object, but like this is the type of object that would bring down entire like cities or countries if not contained. Like cuz it would just keep going.
Yeah, I think the sense of danger was really heightened because there were so many near misses. Like you mentioned, the vine almost grabbing her leg. When they're attacked by the mosquitoes, he accidentally opens the sunroof to let them in just as he drives away. Like, there's just all these near misses that really portray the sense of danger, but it doesn't feel old.
No, the movie has like to my eyes like there were like you can tell kind of the special effects versus the practical effects for the most part. And you can kind of get a feeling for when the movie is made. But overall, the story, which is I think the thing that mostly that keeps the movie together, has aged very well.
Like we were commenting the weird, the 60s bullies.
Yeah.
They were messed up. Like they showed up. Should we do like a recap of what happened in this movie, or are we just gonna kind of talk about the things that stood out to us?
Maybe give like a little bit of context of on the things we're talking about.
The movie starts as a period piece in 1869, I think.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And it's like two boys burying Jumanji, and then smash cut to 1969, where young Robin Williams, who we don't know is Robin Williams yet, gets his shit pushed in by a bunch of like murderous 60s bullies. There's like 12 guys on bikes who are screaming, "Kill him!" And they chase him to his father's place of business. His father refuses to help him and tells him he should fight his own battles. And then he gets his ass beat by like 8 kids.
And his bike stolen.
I love later,
Yeah.
because his dad says, "Oh, there were 12 of them? Oh, I'm sorry, I wouldn't have told you to leave if I knew there was 12. I thought it was 1.
As adults were witness to the beating.
Yeah, like you know, we saw this in Neverending Story too, but like this era of movies with their bullies, it's more like organized criminality.
They really want to hammer home that you should sympathize with this main character. So they beat him up.
Yeah.
It's also the perspective of kids, because like as a kid, bullies they seem much more powerful than they actually are, as with a lot of things.
Just as a note, like this for remind about like the opening of the movie, like dark forest, like this was like a dark opening, not just like lighting wise, but like also it's like the board game is trying to get me out of this hole. Like the board game is malicious.
Yeah, it's evil.
Like yeah, like it is evil.
And I want to.
It seeks players. I would say it's probably chaotic neutral.
John always advocating for the evil objects.
Like, I want to see the game those guys played. Like, I want to see every game that got played on this game.
They must have, like, when the pieces move themselves, they probably went, it must be magic.
Oh, yes. It was probably magic for them because Alan...
Magnets for Alan, and it was microchips for Judy.
Yeah, microchips.
You know, microchips.
They make things move around. That's a very 1995 or whatever thing to say.
Yeah, the same deadly force she would face just 3 years later in Small Soldiers.
Oh, I forgot Kirsten Dunst was in Small Soldiers.
She was in Small Soldiers? Oh my god.
Oh yeah. She's the love interest, neighbor, the girl next door. That's the archetype.
But yeah, like this. So Van Pelt. We were talking before we started recording.
Oh man.
We talked a little bit about him, but I actually want to dive right in because he was everything in this movie that the wolf should have been in Never End the Story.
Right.
In Never Ending Story. This constant threatening presence who was actively trying to hunt down and stop the main characters. intelligent, and yeah, like just great. I really liked his character, and I gotta say that joke about the postal workers.
Yeah.
Not sure if that should be in a kids movie.
That would never happen now.
Oh my god.
That's something I wanted to say is that, like, the movie is very, like, dark and horrible for children, but there's a lot of even darker jokes that would go over children's heads.
Yeah, like that postal
Yeah.
worker joke, I did not get it until this viewing.
Yeah, like you guys had to give me the context on it.
Yeah, because he just goes into a gun shop, buys this... What kind of gun is it? I want to say semi-automatic, but that's not.
It's just a crazy assault rifle.
Yeah. So crazy assault rifle. And because of his safari getup, the guy's just like, "Are you a postal worker?" And just...
As he buys an illegal gun with gold.
Yeah,
And the context of this shop owner, like, a lot of postal workers have killed a lot of people recently.
And you're buying a very dangerous weapon. Might you be a postal worker, sir?
But I got my gold coins, and that's all that matters.
Yeah, and also, like, bypassing the background check and the waiting period. Yeah, if this movie was released today, there'd be a million angry articles of people grandstanding about how horrible it is. Man, the 90s were such a wild period.
But yeah, that's an interesting comparison you made, comparing him to the wolf, because he is a very similar character in that he is intelligent, he's hunting them. He also has far more knowledge about, like, the inner workings of the world itself than is first given off. Like, he understands that he is a piece of Jumanji and how important the board actually is.
Yeah, and that was, yeah, so I found it was a very, very apt comparison to make, especially because, like, yeah, like, he works so well within the story that rather than just random danger like the spiders and the vines and the flesh-eating monster, yeah, like, he's actively antagonistic. He works to foil the protagonist's plans, not just by, like, happenstance or by posing as a natural danger, but an actively antagonistic danger.
So, interestingly, Alan Oppenheimer... Yeah, I'm smart. Alan Oppenheimer is the voice of Gamork in Neverending Story, and also the voice of Falkor. So he is the primary, like, force for good and the primary force for evil in that movie. And we had kind of a similar thing going on here, where Jonathan Pryce plays Van Pelt and Alan's dad.
I was never aware of that until you pointed it out.
I can't believe that you guys didn't catch... Oh, that's... Ugh.
So all I could do was focus on his teeth whenever he talked because he had that gold tooth, and he just always seemed so grody to me as a kid. Just like this gross, nasty adult who's an awful person.
They do a good job of making them seem like very different people.
Yeah. Very much.
Yeah, it's because, like, I didn't pick up on it. And I mean, like, I'm not the best person at picking up on that stuff, but yeah, it didn't naturally occur to me that, like, yeah, they were the same people. And, like, that works on a great, like, symbolism sense because Alan's, to an extent, greatest enemy was his own father, where his relationship with his father and everything else like that was a big part of his childhood. And then his great enemy that he needed to overcome was, one, the legacy of his father that his father left with him when he interacted with the kid. And then, obviously, his antagonist, Van Pelt, who he also needed to overcome in order to be free of the game and then also to shake off, like, a whole bunch of other things. Like, it just works really well, having them both be the same person.
And I imagine part of it's the really good makeup effect, because Von Pelt, he has that weird mustache that touches both his beard and his hair.
So good. What a glorious mustache.
Like, it pretty much just goes all the way across his face.
Van Pelt is rad.
Yeah.
My question about him is, do you think, is he a real person that got sucked into Jumanji, or is he a creation of Jumanji?
He is a creation of Jumanji, because that's why he gets sucked into it at the end.
And he is very self-aware, like, why aren't you killing us? Because you didn't roll the dice.
Yeah. Yeah, so I would say because he doesn't show his own, how would I say it, like he's not independent of the game, or doesn't have his own desires, beyond executing the will of the game, I would say he's a creation of Jumanji.
Right.
Plus, there isn't a fifth game piece.
Yeah, that's true too. Oh yeah. Well, I mean, like, speaking of, yeah, like 90s business dad. Oh boy. I mean, in this case, it's 60s business dad, but still.
Less cocaine, more tuxedo.
And no egg with orange juice either.
And we had a living mom, but then, like, 2 dead parents to make up for it later in the movie.
Man, that homeless person / security guard
Yeah.
really, really buried the lead on that one.
Oh, the...
What?
Like, where are my parents?
What?
Oh, they're on 8th Street. That's where the cemetery is.
What a dick move. Oh my god.
Well, because he said, I see them every once in a while.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's like, oh my god, dude, you can't just do that.
Maybe he's a ghost whisperer.
Well, I like, I know I mentioned, like, early on in the movie, I definitely wasn't sympathetic to those kids for a while.
Oh, you said they deserve to die, I believe.
That was my exact words of, I hope, like, yeah, they deserve to die. I hope they die, because it's like, I know you guys didn't think it was bragging, but I thought there was a whiff of bragging in, like, the fact that they manipulated a traumatized guy who just found his entire life was taken away from him and was trapped in a game for, like, what was it, like 25 to 26 years?
They're also kids. Like, this kid used an adult trick back at an adult and it worked.
Haha, reverse psychology. My dad used to use it on me all the time.
A lot of kids lack the understanding of trauma in other people.
No, I know it's not. I'm obviously speaking of it from an adult perspective. Like, obviously, like, within the world of the movie, totally understandable. As an outside observer, wow.
I gotta say, so that beginning scene where Alan comes back after being in Jumanji for 26 years. So there's a lot of horror in this movie of, like, body horror and scary spiders and stuff. Him coming back and just running around an empty house yelling for his parents was the scariest part for me as a child.
Yeah.
Because you knew they were, like, dead or whatever?
Yeah, it was just the horrifying concept of coming home and your parents are not there.
Yep.
And they
Oh,
never
like,
will be.
oh.
Like, as a child, that freaked me out a lot.
Holy
Yeah.
shit.
Yeah, like the existential elements of this movie, stuff like that. This movie, I find, hits a very good sweet spot of, it's a movie for kids, but you watch it as an adult and there's still plenty of material for you as well. It hits that nice sweet spot, I in my opinion, where it's like, yeah, like, haha, it's a fun adventure movie, and then, but there's also all sorts of, like, adult elements to it as well, that, yeah, like, when he comes back, like, that was, I definitely felt for him, like, I really did. You know, like, can you imagine, like, being trapped for 26 years? Your last words to your dad were, I hate you, I'm never going to speak to you ever again. And you come back, your parents are dead, your house is gone, your father's place of business is gone, everything's gone. Congratulations. Your whole life is gone.
And also a terrifying mockery of your father has been hunting you for 26 years.
Yes.
Yeah, yeah. That certainly. Was he hunting him the whole time inside?
Yes.
Yeah, he seemed to imply that.
Okay.
That Jonathan Hyde was, like, chasing him around in the game, too. Because he said he likes to hunt him for some reason.
Yeah, it was kind of like, he finds my existence abhorrent or something. I don't know.
Well, it's very much like a little boy's interpretation of his dad that he can't please.
Yeah, so it was pretty emotional. Yeah, when he came back, I thought, like, they hit some great notes. I thought the story was structured really well as well. Like I thought the pacing was good, and they I thought they gave perfect amount of screen time to everyone. There's some good comic relief in there too, like the car.
Yeah, that had such a good payoff.
I gotta say, those monkeys cocking that shotgun was just so funny. Like,
The monkeys were good. I love how everything that came out of Jumanji was, like, very clearly intentioned in a way. Like the monkeys caused mischief and ruined stuff, and the stampede was a stampede. It didn't like spread out into a bunch of animals. Like we see the stampede several times as like it's one unit, and its job is to stampede.
Yeah, everyone but the pelican. The pelican was actually a similar level of intelligence as Von Hunt as it tracked down the board game.
Yeah. It felt like a malicious agent.
And that one rhino, just trying his best.
I love that rhino.
Oh, the chubby rhino that guy's great.
Actually, excluding the hunter, the only issue that was recurring was the vines.
Yeah.
Everything else, they beat, basically, by just, mostly avoiding it. But, the vines were actually a recurring issue.
Yeah, and one thing I liked about the vines was they just didn't go oh, the vines are back. Like when they leave the house, it has the shot of the vines curling out of the house, so as the audience that it is still a threatening force. And then obviously it shows up when they're on the roadside, and then finally again under the floorboard when it shoots the poison at the girl. But yeah, I thought, the Vines' antagonistic force was pretty good, I thought, for most of the movie. Those mosquitoes with their long stingers, horrifying.
Especially when it breaks through a car window.
Yes, that's what I was thinking. I'm like, that's not good.
And they evidently carry Jumanji malaria.
Yeah.
Yeah, that as well.
And the woman that they took out of the car, her bite was on her head. It dug into her skull when it sucked her blood.
Those stingers are huge.
Yeah.
Proboscis, I believe.
Yeah. And I like in the second movie, I really noted this. The one guy was like, yeah, my weakness is mosquitoes. Yeah, they would be with these mosquitoes. We never see these mosquitoes in the second movie.
No, it's very much normal mosquitoes within Jumanji.
Yeah.
Yeah, that is a thing. The Jumanji that Alan Parrish was in, I do not think was the same Jumanji that they were in. That seems like a much nicer Jumanji.
It was because they make reference to it. The pilot who's been there for 20 years was living in Alan's house.
But
his lean-to.
Is the multiple lives thing only if you go in as a video game, then?
I think so.
Yeah, that was... Yeah, Jumanji remodeled itself into a video game, and it was too much work to render the mosquitoes at that size, so...
Honestly, I wouldn't be surprised if, that was the thing. And, the second movie had, a different feel to it, like I was mentioning earlier. So... But, yeah,
Well, I just can't stress enough that this board game ruined this town, economically for 26 years. We see it as a fine late 1960s town with a booming shoe factory and whatever, and then Alan goes missing, and when we come back in the 90s, the town is a garbage pile. Yeah. There's homeless people, warming their hands over garbage fires everywhere. It's wild.
I imagine a lot of them were employed at the factory. That's common for small towns where the factory is the main economic source.
Yep.
Oh, good point.
Yeah. Well, and what's interesting, too, is, because this movie was made in 95, so, it's also kind of a reference to real-world economic stuff as well, where, that was, they call the Rust Belt for a reason. And that reason is economic downturn causing empty factories and deserting smaller towns that relied on things like that.
It was all Jumanji's fault.
Yeah, Rust Belt is all Jumanji's fault. But yeah, this item is truly cursed.
It's so after the stampede, there's mass looting.
Yes.
Just in the background. And so when the trio goes into the dollar store-esque place, we later hear on the police radio that we have a hostage situation with a woman and 2 children. But who reported this in the middle of a looting? They're being held hostage in the middle of a store that's being actively looted by hundreds of people. who are all ignoring them in favor of just looting stuff, which seems to be toys. They're in the toy section, so people just keep moving toys around them.
Well, I know when he was taking somebody hostage, somebody does yell out, call the police.
Ooh, nice.
In relation to that, yeah.
He is the only police officer in town, as far as I can tell. We hear the voices of other ones, but I think he might be in like a Twilight Zone scenario where he just thinks there's more police.
There's Lorraine, who's the dispatcher or whatever.
Who also got taken hostage by monkeys?
Yes, she got taken hostage by monkeys.
This movie's great.
Or murdered. It's not made clear.
Yeah.
I like that these monkeys only fucked with the police after they left the house.
Yeah, no, they know, they've been trained by the military. They know how to destabilize the structure of a small town.
They were listening too much NWA.
It's true though. They really targeted the only source of order in this town.
Well, I like when they're like, "Oh, don't worry, it's just traffic cops. They'll support us." And they roll up, and there's like a monkey in the back with the revolver.
They know how to drive, and they know how to use guns, and they know how to destabilize a small town.
Oh, man. I really like that moment where, like, movies always want to reference either Casablanca or Wizard of Oz. And in this one, there's a scene where the monkeys are walking by a TV store and Wizard of Oz is playing, and they see the flying monkeys from the end of Wizard of Oz, and they start doing, like, the hopping dance that they do. Like, they're like, oh, this might be a fun way to destroy shit.
And then proceed to loot.
Yeah. Yeah, they just loot the electronics store. Oh, my God. Yeah, what a great movie, honestly. Like, I'm having a hard time really thinking of anything that I really disliked about it. Like, the only thing I could say is, like, there's like a couple effects that haven't aged as that great.
Yeah, some of the special effects.
Yeah, the monkeys are the worst of it. Like, they're pretty good most of the time, but sometimes they look pretty bad.
It's mostly just the getting sucked into or out of the board game stuff. Oh, and the quicksand.
I was going to say, the quicksand, I think, stuck out to me as the worst offender. Because the monkeys I could overlook because of the active role they played, if you know what I mean. Because they were actively doing so many things that it kind of distracted from the fact that they didn't look the greatest.
Yeah.
Whereas the quicksand, I kind of had to like look at it for a couple solid minutes, and I was like, eh.
Yeah, it wasn't really quicksand. It was just the floorboards became liquid.
Yeah. I'm kind of surprised they didn't do that as a practical effect, where they just like cut out the floor and put sand in there. That seems a lot easier and better looking.
Yeah, I feel like that would have looked a lot better. So like that definitely didn't age well. The tiger, or the lion, I should say, looked all right.
The close shots of the lion, like its head and it like walking down the piano at the start, those looked amazing.
Yes. When it was actively moving after them, like chasing them, I thought that didn't look great. But yeah, like when it wasn't moving as much, it looked pretty damn good.
And the stampede looked good for a thing that was moving.
Yes, actually the stampede looked really good. And like when the aunt opens up the door and sees the lion, that was a great shot. Like, I love that shot so much. It just like yawns. It does like a little roar, I think, and then she just freaks out, shuts the door.
Yeah, and the spiders, those were 100% just puppets, and it was really good.
Yeah, those aged pretty good.
The fighting of the spiders, less so.
Yeah, he didn't hit any of them.
Yeah,
Judy was so much better at hitting those spiders.
He kicked one. He did not hit any with the axe.
Oh, the axe, guys. The axe gag? That's great.
Yeah, that was good.
It's also a totally reasonable thing to actually happen, too.
Yeah.
You were told, go get the axe, it's in the shed, and you're just, like, running on adrenaline. It's like, I need to get into the shed, it's locked. Oh, good, there's an axe here, I can break into the shed.
The best part of that is that he does, like, a Kurt Russell, like, mug to camera after that.
Yeah.
He's like, right, guys?
Am I right or am I right?
This has happened to you too, hasn't it?
Oh, and also the effects on the kid when he turned into a half monkey.
Yeah, that was pretty good.
Speaking of body horror,
I'm gonna try to cheat this magical board game. Nothing can go wrong. Not the most brilliant moment, bud.
They only rolled one double.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I don't know the likelihood, and I don't feel like calculating it. But it seems low.
we're all nerds. Let's assess. What do you think of Jumanji as a board game?
She actually commented on it. Like someone, I think Judy comments on it. Well, this game's like you don't need any skill. You just have to roll the dice.
I disagree completely.
No,
Yeah.
I mean,
Yes.
it takes skill to resolve the effect.
Yeah.
But the game itself, it's just rolling dice, and first one to the center wins.
No, it like unlike Snakes and Ladders, which is not a game and does not require any skill. Jumanji very much requires skill.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It is mechanically almost identical to Snakes and Ladders
Yeah.
until you add in the chance cards.
And everything trying to fucking murder you.
That's what chance cards are for. It's basically the same as Monopoly. Go to jail, get attacked by Hunter.
It only took one day for them to play. I guess it took them 26 years. Never mind. It's exactly the same as Monopoly.
And you leave the game traumatized, unsatisfied, and angry at everything around you.
And you try and you destroy the game afterwards.
A beautiful game board and pieces, though. The components.
Oh, yeah.
10 out of 10
Yeah.
components on Jumanji. Gameplay, 5 maybe.
I wonder, because like that, if that movie came out now, and not ignoring the sequel, I imagine they would have sold a lot of collector's editions which came with the board.
Yeah.
I wonder
Yeah.
if they did anything like that at the time.
There was a Jumanji board game that I had. And it had like one of those red plastic things that you can with the scramble letter reader, and that was the cards. It was unsatisfying, even as a child, without like my snobby opinion of board games now.
Yeah, I would imagine.
I gotta say, talking about good shots in this movie, the shot of when he pulls the board game from the sand in the box, so nice.
Yeah. It's such a good opening to just introducing the game. It's very beautiful.
Yeah, because that's our first actual shot of it.
Yeah.
Yeah. And yeah, so that was really well done. I was very happy with that.
They do a lot of world building in that first like 20 minutes or whatever. Like with the first scene that's never mentioned again of like the boys that we never get to see from the 1800s, and then oh yeah, it's good stuff.
Yeah, like it really sets up the board game as something you don't want. Like as a cursed item, because they're like, no, let's bury this thing.
Sorry, I was. Do you think it was just those two boys who played it? Because they obviously beat the game, and then decided to bury it. Do you think they started with more players?
Or maybe they time traveled. Because every movie we've seen with Jumanji has a time travel element where there are future and past players, and the game connects to itself through time.
Those boys are actually from like the 1700s.
Well, then they would have been in the 1700s, and they would have had the game.
Oh, very true.
Unless.
Yeah. Time travel. Am I right, guys?
Not even once.
It's also interesting because the first and second movie handle them in the opposite ways. Because in the original, we go back to the 60s
Yeah, I
and
didn't
see
care for
Alan.
Yeah.
Whereas in the sequel, we stay in the present of 2017 or with the new kids and see their meetup. And that raises some mild questions about timelines, but that's just kind of how, as soon as you put the word time in anything, that's going to happen.
Well,
Yeah, well,
I don't know. Did anyone else see Zarathustra besides Zarathustra? I think it was called Zathura, I believe it's called.
Oh, yeah, I watched Zathura. Yeah.
No.
Yeah,
Okay.
yeah, it's a
I've not
sci-fi Jumanji. I forgot about that.
Yeah, so it's actually based on another book by
His name is Chris Van Allsburg.
there we go. Yeah, it's based on another Allsburg book. And I think that it's like kind of a better Jumanji sequel than Jumanji 2.
Yeah, I can see that.
Like, Jumanji 2 is a fine movie.
Yeah.
And there's good action sequences in it, but it's not... It doesn't feel very Jumanji to me.
Yeah, I get what you're saying. Like, it doesn't stay as true to the original.
But at the same time, Zathura isn't as, like, perilous. It's much more slow and kind of sad and less bombastic than this movie.
Yeah, like, I think the scariest thing, like, I don't fully remember the movie, but I know their house just is in space, so they're isolated.
Oh.
And otherwise, some aliens arrive at their house.
I have seen part of that.
Yep.
We should probably not dive too deep into it, because we might subject Tepper to it in the future.
Well, he's watched it.
No, I haven't watched it. I just saw the commercials and stuff for it. Yeah, that's why like I knew of it and how it functioned, and then that's also why like when we were getting into this one, I went, "Oh, right, it's the board game affects the world around them, not like the sequel."
I wonder if this author has a series of just different genre board games that fuck up people's lives.
What other genres of board games would he have?
Well, I mean, so there's jungle, and then there's space.
Okay.
And then, like, you can have pirates and ancient Egypt
I
and,
see.
like, samurai. There's so many genres.
Don't play his Monopoly. Like, his Jungle one ruined the economy. I don't want to know what his Monopoly does.
Ruins the jungle.
Yeah.
Oh, that's sad because that's what capitalism is doing to real jungles.
Yeah, but yeah, just like the banking crisis or the housing bubble or collapse, all of that. That's his board game having real effects on the world.
That actually brings us to a point we noticed. When they finish the game and everything from Jumanji gets pulled back into Jumanji,
Oh, right.
the hunter's new gun goes with him.
And not the gun he left at the gun store.
Yeah, so we're led to believe that Jumanji respects capitalism.
I really want to know if that, like, crooked gun store owner got to keep those gold coins that he paid with.
I mean, who would have to if Jumanji respects capitalism?
Yeah, I think Jumanji respects trades at the very least.
Yeah.
Just like trading one item for the other. Just, okay, you can have this item that I owned.
Well, and considering it's a cursed item, it's almost like I wouldn't be surprised if it like absorbs elements from the world that people that like it comes out into. So like, you know, in the sequel, obviously they probably didn't think this deeply about it, but like there's way more guns and stuff like that. Technology jumps forward, motorcycles and stuff like so.
Well, and like, yeah, it very much does do exactly that because, it's a reflection of the world around it, and that's why it becomes a video game.
Yeah, it's the ultimate cursed item, like adaptable, persistent, dangerous.
It just wants to be played.
It just wants players, like you said before.
Yeah.
Can we talk about Van Pelt's cape? he had this like pith helmet, khaki jungle outfit, and then this rockin' red and black like Star Wars Imperial uniform cape. It was fashionable.
He looked good.
That was actually something I wanted to mention. So we've had 90s business dad and 1960s business dad. Van Pelt is 1900s business dad, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yep. Conquest of
probably,
Africa dad.
Yeah, left his kids behind and his family and
business.
Went off into the interior of Africa.
And colonized. With his, like, fuck off elephant gun.
Yeah, that was quite the gun he was shooting. Yeah, man, Van Pelt was so good. Like, what a great villain. The Home Alone sequence.
Oh,
that was pretty good.
I forgot there was a Home Alone sequence, and it feels weird in the movie.
It's never established that Peter is MacGyver.
Yeah, Peter's MacGyver and Judy's the party face.
It's so true.
And together they are the A-Team.
Well, okay, so Judy, the fact that she, like, if Peter didn't stop her, she was going to do another one of those, like, fake, this is how my parents died things to Alan at his parents' grave?
Yeah. Like, yeah. Peter
definitely
has a better sense of, like, social situations.
Like, earlier, she was saying, like, oh, I know why this house was so cheap, because a boy died and got chopped up and put in the walls. And the aunt reacts by saying, okay, enough of your lies. Go to your room. And you guys are like, that's harsh, but like, she's a very compulsive liar.
And think about that scene again. I know, like I said that escalated quickly. That actually didn't escalate quickly. I agree with the aunt now. like now that you mention it like that, it's like, yeah, no, she's awful. And that was another reason why I wanted those kids to die. Mostly her though. The boy, you know what? Like, yeah, like he had sense enough to go like, no, don't pull that shit when this guy's dealing with the fact his parents are dead.
He doesn't respect the rules of a board game, and that's much worse.
He was just a monkey. Like, it didn't take away his ability to talk. It didn't make it harder for him to do anything. He just grew a tail and became a furry.
It would have presumably turned him entirely into a monkey.
Yeah, okay.
Yeah, I that's what I was thinking, is that it would, if given a long enough period of time, he would lose his humanity.
But it also wasn't made super clear if Judy just died at the end.
Oh, when she got neck stabbed by the devil flowers?
Devil flowers, that's a good name for them.
Like, she was definitely dying, or going into a coma at the very least. It was not very clear if she had actually just died, though. Man, longest die roll.
I really enjoyed, like, that's a good tension builder.
It is, but when you cut back to the die like 5 times and it's still rolling.
Hitting every single thing that would keep it rolling.
Well, it's like a slinky and it's going downstairs.
But we see it go downstairs, and then the last 4 cuts to it are all on the final stair.
Yeah, we have to remember these are evil dice from an evil game.
No, yeah, that's true too.
Like, not too much tension technically at the end there, because he just needed to roll a 3 on 2d6.
So I do very clearly remember from the Jumanji board game that it's one of those bullshit games like Trivial Pursuit where if you don't roll the exact number, you have to like go back the number over.
Oh, I think that got established. I think she did roll over, and it sent her back.
I thought that was just an effect. Like, there's something you must learn.
Yeah, and that it didn't go back. I don't think it went back her turn. It undid the quicksand.
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
That's at least my interpretation of it.
It definitely undid the quicksand. It may have also sent her back. And by undo the quicksand, I mean...
Paused it.
I'm sure there's probably somebody online who has, like, taking all the scenes of, like, how many spaces and all the die rolls, like, mapped out whether it's accurate or not.
I will bet you it all makes sense. Like, It seems like they put a lot of that kind of work into this movie. It's very... like Save the Cat. It's very traditional Hollywood. Everything they set up pays off.
Yes.
Like even in that last scene where everything's getting sucked back in, like all of our favorite characters, we get to, there's the monkey and there's the rhino and...
If he had gotten sucked all the way into the quicksand, would he have just fallen down to the first floor?
Yeah. Because like we see when he gets stuck, his lower half is just sticking out of the ceiling.
Or did just everything below him turn into quicksand? Just, like, all the way down.
Well, I like to imagine, his feet were just free-falling, going through the floor. I found it very comedic when the ant walked in and just saw his legs in the ceiling.
No,
that was pretty good.
It was actually, like, Robin Williams stuck in a floor is possibly my favorite superhero. Basically, every scene of that was very good. We just, like, put the dice in your mouth and, like, trying to, like, blow away a spider.
Yeah, the spider, yeah.
There's a lot of very good Robin Williams bits in this. Like, this might be my favorite performance of Robin Williams. Is like, he's utilized so perfectly in this movie, and it's never, like, over the top, which is kind of his whole shtick.
Yeah.
Yeah, definitely, like, probably my favorite live action at the very least. Like,
less comedy than I expected, actually.
Yeah, I do really enjoy him, like, as Genie in Aladdin, but as a live-action role, very, very good.
I like the scene, too, where she's like, oh, you wrestled an alligator for me, or whatever, and then he's like, pulls away from, like, the potential kiss, and he goes like, no, that's a crocodile, like, and explains it in detail to her.
I like that they had their romance kiss once they were back as children.
Yeah. I like that.
Because, like... she got to have a horrible but like a normal childhood, sort of, like in the real world, and he's like a crazy jungle man that probably lost his virginity to an orange or a gorilla or something.
Curvy piece of driftwood.
Like the scene where he finally goes into the bathroom and he sees the toilet, like, yes.
Yeah.
Oh, that was so good.
He's so happy to see a toilet after 26 years of no toilets.
No more banana leaves.
I liked that he left at his parents' grave. He left behind his like turtle hat or whatever he was wearing.
Yeah.
Like I don't know if that was like I won't need this anymore. If it was like for you, mom and dad.
Yeah, I was actually really happy that they made him, like, back to normal, because one of my worries when he first appeared was that they were going to keep him as this weird jungle man, and be like, Robin Williams, do silly stuff, like when he was doing the motions at the monkey and stuff like that. And I was really glad when they were like, no, he's not feral. He is, just very glad to be back.
He's a little feral.
Yeah, like he's got like elements of it, but it wasn't like my worry was that it was going to be over the top, and it wasn't, and that made me happy.
And I don't mean to nitpick, but the gag where he comes out cleanly shaven and there's like little toilet paper where he cut himself. Like, what? I've never shaved before. The very next scene, perfectly smooth skin, like no cuts.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It was very small, but this is the first time I noticed it.
Yeah, if you're on like continuity, 100% valid criticism. I thought it was like a good gag, and it was never like important enough to the story to like matter, right?
I agree. Like,
but I get it. Yeah.
So do you guys think that if they are cards or the results of a Jumanji, I guess, once that has happened, can you get that result again in the same game?
I guess it would just depend how many results there are.
Yeah.
Yeah. It also depends how much actual chance it is versus how much it is Jumanji deciding it.
Right.
Yeah. Yeah, I agree with what John was saying. Like, it really, like, we don't know how the game actually functions.
So I was trying to figure out what, like, if the cards go back into the deck, conceivably, everyone could get sucked into Jumanji and there would be no one left to roll the dice.
Yeah, but
right,
then
yeah.
Jumanji would win.
And then Jumanji gets to become a real boy.
But yeah, I think like, yeah, no idea how Jumanji functions. And hopefully Hollywood never gets it in their head to make a Jumanji origin movie.
But we gotta see those kids.
I'm sure that's in the pipes right now.
Or
Please, dear God, no.
where do you think like Jumanji dates back to like the Sumerians, or
That seems like something the Sumerian gods would put together. They were vicious.
like has it existed as long as games have existed? Like it must have.
Yeah, because I'm wondering, like, did Jumanji start out as just dice, and then it evolved into a board game over time?
If studio executives came to me and went, write a Jumanji origin story, I would trace it back to the Sumerians. Because, like I was saying earlier, like, those gods in that mythology were huge, huge dicks. But yeah, that's what I would write for, like, an origin story for this game. Like, the gods made it. And it's a cursed item.
See, I thought it was somehow connected to, like, the colonization era of Africa. Because it does seem to be all very Africa stuff.
True. That would actually be another good one, is because like that fits into the into like that meta or like genre of stories taking place in Africa, cursed objects. You know, we got like our Indiana Jones style explorers who find that cursed object.
Your King Solomon's mines.
Yeah, exactly. So that would actually be another good one, is it's a cursed item from Africa tied to colonialism. So, like, actually, I really like that, too. And if they were, I mean, screenwriting-wise, if they were ever to do an origin story, it'd be very easy, because they set in that time period of, explorer goes to Africa and brings back this game, take place in any form, cards, dice, or whatever, for his kids. The kids play the game, and then...
Oh, wow. I would watch the hell out of that, like...
Yeah.
Ooh, yeah, like 1700s European children, like, playing Jumanji and having to deal with murder mosquitoes and stuff. That sounds cool.
Yeah, and that's what I was thinking. Is like, okay, that would be a cool way to do an origin story, and without ruining it. Because I find the problem with origin stories is sometimes they can suck the mystery out if the mystery is lame.
I imagine there has to be a tipping point where Jumanji would have existed. Like, if Jumanji existed, playing it would have been no worse than just living.
There's things trying to kill us. So just another day at the office. Yeah, and I do like the world building in this. Like, the way the board game functions, kind of like the rules it establishes, and, like, its power that it has over the world. And, yeah, honestly, I quite like this movie.
Yeah, and I love the failed attempts to get rid of it. And how that leads into the sequel, and then the sequel ruins it by attempting to destroy it. Like, that's just...
Yeah, that was kind of lame.
That's the worst decision of that movie, personally. Like, show it ending up somewhere else. That's exactly what Jumanji's supposed to do.
Yeah.
Yeah, that was my one complaint about the sequel as well, is I was totally down with the sequel, except for the final ending of them smashing the console, because it should have been them trying to get rid of it, and maybe they did smash it, but then have another scene of somebody finding a different form of Jumanji.
Yeah, but that's just another way that it's like a failing of New Hollywood of not understanding. Like, board games have never been more popular or a cultural force. Like, when this movie came out, board games were still Snakes and Ladders and bullshit like that. Like, you could have made a very different Jumanji movie about the board game, because there's a whole fetish about board games now.
Jumanji, Twilight Imperium.
No, exactly. Like, all these Caverna pieces, like, way too many components.
Yeah.
But to be fair, like, that movie starts in the 90s. Yeah. It starts in 1996,
Yeah.
where board games were on a fall. And so
Yeah.
Jumanji becomes a video game, and it doesn't... That is, like, Jumanji's one limitation, it seems like, is it's not able to adapt while it has players.
Yeah, like, as long as there is a game in progress, it cannot change. But yeah, I think yeah, like, the one failing of the sequel was not necessarily, like, setting up another movie, but, like, showing, calling back to the ending of the first one with this cycle, because it is a cursed item, and having that cycle, that no matter how much people try to stop this thing, it has a will and magic of its own.
Right. And you could do that in so many, like, if you want to be, like, have it be uploaded as a ROM or something. Like, there are clever things you could do with that.
Yeah, like what they could have done is even, like, they could have still gone ahead with smashing the console in the sequel. But, so, I don't know, like, some tech guys go dumpster diving, or somebody shows up and goes like, I found this hard drive in the dumpster.
How great would that be if it's like a bunch of years later or whatever, and some like guys in China or something are tearing apart these electronics and like, oh, look at this game, it's still perfectly fine.
Yeah.
Drums. Cue drums.
Yeah, exactly. Something like that.
I actually just realized, because, like, I already noted how in this one we go back to where we started in the 60s, and in the sequel we stay in the present. But it's not just us, it's Jumanji that does that. Like, Jumanji goes back to the 60s with Alan, but Jumanji stays in 2016.
Weird.
Yeah, like, it doesn't go back with... I don't remember that kid's name. It doesn't go back to 96 with him.
It goes back in time with Alan, right? That's what
yeah. Like, it goes with Al. Like, Alan still has it. Like, everything resets to when he sat down to play the game, and it seemed probably the same thing happens to that one kid in the 90s, but the game's not with him. The game stays in the future.
Oh, I see. Yeah, you're right.
Because if the game traveled back in time with that one kid, he would have just tossed it.
Yeah, and it wouldn't have been in the room.
Yeah.
Because they donated his stuff, I'm pretty sure, to the school.
Presumably, yeah.
Presumably, so it never ended up in that storage room, meaning they wouldn't have had anything to smash.
Yeah. It's kind of weird.
Yeah, definitely an oversight, but, you know. Oh, well. You guys have anything else you want to mention about the movie?
I love Van Pelt. I love him.
The monsoon and the earthquake were also spectacular practical effects. There it is.
I like Tepper. I like your comment. Like, this water looks really good. Yeah, because it's water.
I know, but you guys knew what I meant.
Yeah,
like,
but it was just funny.
These 90s water effects, am I right?
Yeah, but actually though, like you look at
pre special effects water effects are like they look good because they filmed water, but there's a whole era of movies where like, oh, a giant wave that looks like pixels. I'm so scared.
Yeah, you get what I'm saying, Chris. And like also like the lighting and stuff that they use, like this is going to sound a little bit like heresy, but I quite like Jurassic Park 3.
Hey, did you know that is also directed by Peter Johnston?
No fucking way.
Just the third one, or
just the third one?
Oh my god!
I think you blew his mind.
So we just learned that.
Sorry, Joe Johnston.
Yeah, we just learned that Joe Johnston has a thing for water.
Because there's that whole sequence. Have you guys seen Jurassic Park 3, all of you?
Yeah.
Yeah. So this is just going to be a brief aside, but like that whole sequence when they're like fighting, I can't remember the name of that T-Rex knockoff.
T-Rex with frills on its back.
I believe it is called Imperious Rex.
Yeah. Like that whole sequence in the water is just such a great sequence. I actually really love that whole part.
Yeah, it was really good.
And it looks good, and when the water in the interior of the in Jumanji reminded me of that scene so distinctly because of the way the lighting is, like that, like kind of like softer. How do I describe it? Like that soft bluish lighting that they kind of got going.
I guess it's the coloring of a storm with cloud cover and everything.
Yeah. So. Anyway, long story short, made me think of that scene from Jurassic Park 3.
All right, and thanks for listening. This has been Never End the Story with Chris, Shana, Tepper, and myself, Ivan. And a special thanks to 8-Bit Jazz for the use of our theme song, the Never Ending Story theme, 8-Bit Jazz version. You can find them on YouTube, and there will be a link in the description. Catch you next time.